So the first relatively big decision you're going to have to make as a scrapbooker is what format you're going to use, because once you decide what format, and what I mean when I say format is what size of a layout will you be making, once you make that decision, that will set for you the size of your first scrapbook, and then unless if you want to buy a whole new scrapbook without finishing the first one, you are committed to making, 10, 20 layouts in that size. Although, as I said, you can abandon that idea and go and get yourself a different scrapbook if you end up not liking it. So it's not that big of a decision, but of all the things we've been talking about, this is probably the biggest of all of those decisions. So this is the scrapbook that I've been using lately. This is a We Are Memory Keepers. It's a faux leather bound 12 by 12 D-ring binder. So it holds 12 by 12 layouts. If I open it up, it looks like this. And it's really important that you get a D-ring binder because it has a curvy ring here and then a straight ring here. I'll show you one without any layouts in it in a second. And so what that does is it allows all of your layouts, and the ring, instead of being on this part, the ring is on the flat part, and that allows everything to lay flat when you have the album open or just laying on its back. And everything stands very nicely when you stand it up, and you don't have to kind of, when you stand it up, then squish everything over. I've never seen a 3-ring binder for scrapbooks that isn't D-ring and on the side, so I think this will be fairly easy to find among the D-ring binders. This one, as I said, is from We Are Memory Keepers. There are a whole bunch of different options. I have a lot of them from the Recollections brand at Michael's, and what I really like about them is that they're really easy to get. These I have to order and wait for, but the ones at Michael's you can just get really easily. They are fabric bound instead of leather bound, so I find that the cat hair in my house sticks to the other ones quite a bit more than cat hair doesn't really stick to this kind of leather. And the other thing about the ones at Michael's is that you can use your 40% off coupon or just wait for them to go on sale. They go on sale fairly regularly, and then you can stock up on a couple if you're doing a lot of scrapbooking. But for now, all you'll need is one. These albums, when you get them at Michael's from either Recollections or American Crafts makes them too. Becky Higgins' Project Life albums would do as well. And there's probably a bunch of different brands. The nice thing about these albums is that they do come most of the time with page protectors inside of them. They usually come with 10 page protectors, and I find that I can fill an album with a little bit more than 10. So this one, for example, has 1, 12, 13, 14. So that means a total of 28 layouts fit in this album. And you'll notice that I have some very dimensional layouts in this particular album, so it doesn't lay exactly flat, like it doesn't close exactly flat, but that's okay, I don't really mind. You might not have as big embellishments. I have this one embellishment here that just has a whole lot of dimension on it. So that is the type of album that I use, and I do recommend this kind of album. I think if you start with a post-bound album, you're very likely to move towards a 3-ring binder at some point if you keep up with your scrapbooking, but I will show you the post-bound albums just so you know what they look like. These are my 2 post-bound scrapbook albums. This is the very first scrapbook album that I ever did. It has my very first 12 by 12 layouts ever, and it's by K & Company, this album. This is what a post-bound album looks like. So by post-bound, I mean it has posts inside of it. If you open this up, these are the posts right there, and they run through the 3 holes in the page protectors, and then in the back there are little slotted like these are the back sides of the post, and you can unscrew these and take this whole album apart if you wanted to, and add pages and make it bigger, which I didn't do because this is a themed album. This was all about my pre-marriage days, so the year of dating that my husband and I you know, before, I think it's just up to our engagement. It's not even, is it? Or is it right up to the wedding? It's right up to the wedding. So yeah, so the year and a half that we were together but not married, this is what this album is all about. You'll notice as I flip through it really quickly that my style of scrapbooking has really changed since then. And you know, that is something that you should consider as a beginner, is that when you're first starting out, I'll encourage you to try lots and lots of things, because you won't know what you like until you do it and have it in your albums and look at it and say, oh yeah, I really like that, I want to do more of that, or no, I don't want to do more of that kind of style of layout, I'd rather branch out in a different direction. So the only way that you can get there is to just do it. I think a lot of people say that they're overwhelmed because they don't know what their style is, so I'm not sure where to start. Just jump in and start anywhere, because you're never going to know until you do it. So just jump in and do it. It's okay if you know, when I look at these layouts, I think, wow, that's really not the way that I would scrapbook these pictures today, but I still really love looking at these layouts, and I really love that these memories have all been captured and documented. And I kind of like that it's also a kind of like a snapshot of my scrapbooking. Like here this was probably the very first time I ever heat embossed with stamps. And so, you know, I probably, if I were doing this now, I would have put these closer together. Like I didn't understand design the same way that I do now, but I would have probably layered them or kind of had them a little bit maybe close, I don't know, but it's still, it's nice to see myself playing with things back then. And I used to ink all my corners back then, and or all my edges, and so it's kind of nice. I'm going to encourage you to just kind of jump in and get started, and don't worry too much about how it looks at first, because you'll get your groove once you get going. So this is what a post-bound album looks like when you just buy one from the store and you fill it up until it's filled, and then you're done with it. So this is by K & Company, which you will find their products at Michael's. And then this is another album that is also post-bound that I have added to. So you'll see that this one is quite a bit thicker. I'll hold them both up like this, because I've added to it. When you buy these post-bound albums, they will come with these extra long, inserts for making your posts longer, because the post in this album has to be, you know, this long, and the post in this album only has to be this long. So when you get these albums, they will come with little post extensions, and they'll also come with these long flat pieces of cardboard. Now I have made my own because I lost those long flat pieces of cardboard, and I just made my own pieces of cardboard to kind of, basically what you need to do is you need to make this part thicker so that your pages don't just keep on fanning out. If I just kept adding pages, my book wouldn't close properly, this part wouldn't get bigger. So I needed to make this part bigger so that the whole thing would lay like this. So these post-bound albums are very nice, because I will show you one of the benefits of using it, is that when you have a 2-page layout like this, it lays pretty flat, and there's no ring, like 3 rings in between the middle of it, so that you can just kind of enjoy it and see it as a 2-page layout. Sorry about the glare there, just as it is. So this was another one of my first scrapbooks. So there are lots of double page layouts in here. I was doing a lot of double pages back then, and lots of different, you know, ways of combining papers. I was playing around with layering. I was playing around with, you know, different ways of displaying the photos. Yeah, there were a lot of double pages in this book. So your first question will be, what kind of an album will you buy? A post-bound or a 3-ring or something? There are a few other options, but I don't have those in my collection. Like, I can't show you in person what the other options are, and they're not quite as easy to find and readily available as these, so you'll probably want to start with one of these. But if you have a different album, that's okay, it's not wrong or anything. But the 2 most frequently widely available albums would be the postbound and the 3-ring binder. So that would be your first decision, would be which of these formats will you use. I think one of the reasons that a lot of established scrapbookers end up, if they start with this, they'll switch over to 3 rings, is that these are just much easier to reorder your pages. You just kind of open the binder rings and move things around. They're easier to add things to, and just kind of just easier in general and more flexible than these. These are flexible, but you have to open it all up and, you know, use a coin to open the screws and that sort of thing. But it's whatever appeals to you the most. I was aware of this when I started, and I still made the choice to do this kind of album, and then I did, lo and behold, end up switching over about 2 or 3 years into my scrapbooking. And I didn't bother moving them, I just switched over and started using D-ring binders. Some people will then go back and take all these albums apart and put them into 3-ring binders. Anything is okay, you can do it whatever way you want to do it. So the second choice that you need to make at this point is not only what kind of an album are you going to buy, and these albums can be anywhere from $10 or $12 to $30 or $40 or $50, depending on how fancy they are. So I would shop around for binders and albums and just kind of think about what your budget is and that sort of thing. If you end up making a whole lot of scrapbook pages, albums will become a pretty big expense for you. But early on, when your layouts will probably be taking longer for you to complete and you won't be doing them quite as often, you know, an album can last a really long time. So this album, for example, lasted me from March 2009 to September of 2009, and that's quite a long time. Right now I do about 4 albums a year, so at this point I was doing about 2 albums a year, so I've doubled my productivity since this point. So album format is one important decision that you have to make, and then layout size and format is another decision that you have to make. So far all of the information in this video has been about 12 by 12 scrapbook pages, so that's 12 inches by 12 inches. All of these layouts are 12 by 12, but you'll notice that every once in a while I have a little insert that might be a pocket page, or it might be just a different sized page. And as you scrapbook, you'll realize that there are lots and lots of options, and you don't have to do only one size. This is actually a really good example because it shows you that you can combine pocket scrapbooking with 12 by 12 scrapbooking in the same binder. This pocket scrapbooking, also sometimes called Project Life, is a really great way to get started with scrapbooking. It allows you to scrapbook on these little tiny cards and then put the cards into pockets and they become your scrapbook. So that is called Project Life, or pocket scrapbooking, and I will show you my Project Life because that's a different format. I'm not going to talk too much about Project Life at this point in the beginner series, in the how-to series, but I will do a video just about Project Life in this series, but it won't be for a while. So I'm going to go grab my Project Life album. So this is my Project Life album, and this is an actual Becky Higgins branded Project Life album. And so Becky Higgins is the designer who created and discovered Project Life. That's her little logo, and that's her slogan for Project Life, is called Cultivate a Good Life and Record It. You can go to beckyhiggins.com and learn lots of great ideas and about all the products that are available in Project Life. There are also other brands of pocket scrapbooking supplies, and so Snap by Simple Stories is one brand that does Project Life type of cards that you can put into pockets. And so keep an eye out for what all of your different options are. But this is what my Project Life looks like for 2016. I am behind in my Project Life. So the classic idea of traditional Project Life is that you scrapbook every single week, so that a week would consist of these 2 pages, and you would have 4 by 6 pockets to put things in. In this case, I have 2 3 by 4s and 1 4 by 6 pocket, and then these 3 by 4 pockets to put things in, and then you can kind of put some big photos in those in those pockets, and then these smaller journaling cards could be for doing some journaling that goes with those cards or separate. I take a pretty flexible approach to it. I typically do 1 week on one side and the next week on the other side, so that it's a 2-week spread instead of a 1-week spread. But I will sometimes, so for example, I think the pages that belong here that I just haven't put into the pockets yet, the cards that belong here, are 1 week across a two-page spread. So I'm pretty flexible in how I do it. If you want more information about pocket scrapbooking, which is not going to be the emphasis of this series, check out beckyhiggins.com, go on to YouTube and Google Project Life. I have some Project Life process videos in my channel if you want to see how I do these cards and how they come together. You can check that out. And yeah, Project Life is really great way to enter scrapbooking because the canvases, each of these cards is very small space to work with, so it's not as overwhelming. And yeah, it's fun and easy. And so I'll encourage you to look into that if you're interested in it. And I also just wanted to point out while we're talking about albums that the Project Life albums typically don't, this is a Project Life album that I just bought separately, and they don't typically come with any page protectors. So the nice thing about it is that if you find these on sale, which this was on sale, this is one of her older designs, and I liked it because it was kind of more masculine than a lot of the scrapbooks are that are out there. So if you can find one of them on sale, you can use it for a 12 by 12 layout or a bunch of 12 by 12 layouts, and sometimes you can get them on sale. They are pretty good quality scrapbooks. This one has a fabric covering. This one has a, I guess it's kind of like a laminated, padded chipboard type of a cover with these little reinforcers on the edges to keep the corners from getting beat up. They're good quality albums, and if you can get them on sale, you can use them for your regular scrapbook pages, or you can use them for Project Life. So go ahead and pick one up if you're looking for an album, and you can only find these. Just remember, you'll have to buy some page protectors to go inside. If you get an album that comes with page protectors, you won't need to buy page protectors anytime soon. It won't be until that album is full and you decide whether or not you want to add a couple pages to it before it's actually full, or if you just want to leave it with the pages that came in the binder. So page protectors you can buy. These came in a box, but I just threw away the box, so I just have the plastic liner that came in the box. I don't know how many I buy at once, but I buy the biggest package that I can get just because I scrapbook a lot, so I need a lot of them. But you can buy packages of 10 or 20 of them at Michael's or at your local scrapbooking store or online or wherever you go to get your stuff. And they're just these envelopes. They're basically just page protectors, but they're just bigger than the regular 8.5 by 11 page protectors. So they're 12 by 12. They fit a 12 by 12 piece of paper. Different brands have different features. So some of them, the We Are Memory Keepers ones, are a little bit deeper than 12. So you've got a little bit of space at the top, which some people really love and some people really hate. But they will all fit a 12 by 12 layout inside. So you can scrapbook in lots of different sizes, not just 12 by 12 or pocket pages that are, you know, in those smaller cards. There are other sizes. You can scrapbook in 8 by 8, you can scrapbook in 6 by 6, you can make smaller books that have pockets inside of them as well. And another very, very popular size for scrapbooking is 8.5 by 11. I have two 8.5 by 11 layouts that I can't find anywhere. I looked and looked and looked before I did this video and I couldn't find them, so I'm sorry that I can't show a live like a real layout to show you, but this Canadian Scrapbooker magazine is a magazine that features 8.5 by 11 layouts on its cover, because I think a lot of magazines do that because the cover is the same proportions, and so a lot of the layouts inside of this magazine are 12 by 12, but the cover will always be 8.5 by 11 unless if they change it at some point. So this is a layout that is 8.5 by 11. This is actually a layout that I created for the cover of this magazine. fine. That's not my family. They just send you a picture of somebody that you don't know to scrapbook. It's a little bit of a strange scenario, but it was fun. And so that's an example of a layout that I did that was 8.5 by 11. And I just stuck it into an 8.5 by 11 page protector from the office supply store and put it in my scrapbook. I just don't know where, because I went back to, this is from the summer of 2013, I went back to my scrapbooks from the summer of 2013 and I couldn't find it in there. So I might have put it in the wrong album. But anyhow, this is another format. Lots and lots of scrapbookers do scrap on 8.5 by 11 sizes, and it is a fun size. It's very different from, I struggled with it just because I've been doing 12 by 12 for so long, but it is an option for you that I have to mention when I'm talking about choosing an album and those sorts of things. But the reason I mean, if you want to do that size, go ahead and do it, that's fine. But I'm going to be doing all of my examples in this series on 12 by 12 pages because that's what I do, so that's what I think I'm good at it, and I have more to say about it. Kind of know what I'm talking about, whereas I might not know as much of what I'm talking about if I were to talk about how to put together an 8.5 by 11 page. Also, you will find more examples online of 12 by 12 because it is a more popular way of scrapbooking. It doesn't mean it's a better way of scrapbooking, but it is done more by more people. And so that's why I'm going to focus on 12 by 12, but I just wanted to let you know that this is also an option. So I think that's all I have to say about choosing an album and choosing a size and a format for your album. It is a sort of important decision because you do have to, decide before you get started which size you're going to use. I would suggest that you just go ahead and get started with 12 by 12. You can always experiment with 8.5 by 11 later on if you want to, or if you're feeling like you really just want to try 8.5 by 11 right from the outset, if you want to do something a little different, or if that size appeals to you. It is easier to find binders and page protectors in the 8.5 by 11 size because you can just get those at the office supply store. So if you want to go ahead and do that, go ahead. It's no big deal. So thanks for watching this video about albums and how to choose a size and a format for your scrapbooking. Keep on watching this how-to series on my channel because there are lots of other videos either already on my channel or coming up about basic tools and supplies, how to put together a page, the anatomy of a page, how to store your supplies when you're just starting out, how to build a stash, and how to add different techniques like stamping and misting and those sorts of things, and maybe a little bit of mixed media along the way. So keep on watching, and in the meantime, I'll still be doing process videos, so check those out as well, and have a really great scrappy week.